You know what? Let's not do a cold open this week. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is, wherever you are. I'm Austin Titchener, co-artistic director of the Reduced Shakespeare Company, and you're listening to this week's Reduced Shakespeare Company podcast, now in its 20th year, number 1008, RSC Podcast Whisperer. Our regular listeners will already know who I'm talking about. Podcast Whisperer, original cast member of the Bible, the Complete Word of God Abridged, and all the great books abridged, and first replacement for the famed Adam Long in the Reduced Shakespeare Company. I'm talking, of course, of young Matthew Croke. Matt is the one I thank every week, because he's the one back in 2006 said, no, you got to do a podcast. You got to do podcasts. And we went, what? What are podcasts? Can you do them even if you don't have an iPod? And he's been my coach and podcast consigliere for now almost 20 years. We have been talking a lot recently since episode 1000 about what the podcast has done, what it has accomplished, where we should take it from here. And so I wanted to share that conversation with you, the listeners and the viewers here on the YouTube, and see how we're doing. Matt, do we want to talk first about how we got here, what the first 1,000 episodes were like?
Well, I think I think it's apropos that we're starting with a new recording device, not Zoom, because the conversations we're having is that, yes, you're at Podcast 1000, which is incredibly impressive. Once again, congratulations. But there are so many new tools and there are so many new ways to reach your people, the consumer, the people who consume content, that I'm always interested in the conversation. How do we get to the next level?
Yeah, and I've been wanting to get these things up on YouTube for years, but it's just time consuming. And so I have been you and also Tony, who hosts the history podcast that I guested on, the Talking History podcast that I guested on, have told me about a product called Descript, which is an online text-based video editor, which definitely has its pros and its cons. One of its biggest cons is that I don't care about audio anywhere near as I care about spelling and punctuation.
And we had a long debate about Austin. We were in the car, and Austin is putting in commas for, those who, hard of hearing or want to read. I'm like, for the love of Pete, you're killing you could save hours. And Austin's like, I'm a writer, damn it.
You know what? It counts. It matters. Punctuation matters. We can't let AI dumb us down even further.
And so Austin recorded something today.
It's time consuming, and as we've discovered, it doesn't do exactly what I want it to do. We need to find the tools and workarounds to make this all happen.
Well, yes and no, and I think that's what we're breaking some eggs to make an omelet, because the idea and where I'm coming to you is that there are tools that actually will save you time. You can do more with less, and this isn't replacing, AI is not replacing, it's enhancing as a tool. And I think one thing that we're getting caught up with the script is that you had a 5-person panel on one screenshot of Zoom, and it had a hard time going in and out. So we're introducing Riverside FM. It's something I used before, saying, I think you need to record separate cameras. So for anyone out there who is a content creator, this conversation is for you as well, because we're going to be talking about how do we make things faster, how do we break eggs to make omelets, how do we learn new skills, and how do we reach people we haven't reached before.
So are you telling me that this video that we are now filming on Riverside FM will create 2 separate video files for each one of our feeds?
Yeah, and Descript, as we're going back and forth with AI, and it kept saying, we can do this, and then AI says, we can't do this, and we spent hours of it saying we can do this, and finally it said, look, I can't do what you want because of the way you're recording. They're going to love this because you're going to have separate tracks, and now it can go in and out. When one person talks, They can be full on the screen, and then they can connect that to the audio. So now imagine 4 or 5 people that you have sometimes. It could do that seamlessly. So yes, this is that solution of spending hours of trying to get it right to now saying, oh, you've got 2 completely separate tracks. I can take care of this for you.
Well, and the other great thing about recording this episode right now tonight is that I can have a beer when we're recording a podcast in the evening, and you can have a cup of tea with a picture of Bottom in a tie from Midsummer Night's Dream. Bottom as an ass. There it is. Not that we've ever had a sponsor here on the RSC podcast, but I wouldn't mind plugging Twice Lucky English style pub ale from the Evanston Brewery Sketchbook. It's quite good. It's only 3.8 ABV, and I'm making it into a black and tan with 0% Guinness. So it is a hearty, malty English breakfast, an English style pub drink with a fraction of the alcohol. So I'll still be able to function.
What a great setting me up there with the big softball hit, because we have these conversations all the time. I would argue right now that's a 30-second clip that you can now send to that brewery and say, listen, we're looking for sponsorship. You just very articulate on how you would promote the product, whether it's that or something else. So we are trying to look into that. And one thing that we're discussing is I think it's time that you did pay maybe one level above the free in your Blueberry stats so you can really find out what's going on.
Yes, and again, it's not even the money to pay for a deeper subscription base as it is the time to go through all this stuff. One of the only reason I've been able to keep this podcast going for almost 20 years is that I've really gotten it down to a science of how much time it takes me every week. Because if it takes me too long, I can't do it. I can't sustain it.
But what's interesting is that when you're looking at the Blueberry stats, when we were driving up, we had a long car ride and talking, you notice that in Germany, your listens have gone up. So
in the last month, we now have 15,000 listens in the last month in Germany. Who are you, German folks, listening to us?
And that's where my mind went. Yeah. Because in talking about content, I'm going, well, then you should do an episode about Germany. Like, it almost saves you time, because when you're looking for topics, and I knew that you had the Germany thing. So even I grabbed some things. Did you know that Germany was the first country outside of Britain to lay claim to Shakespeare?
Really?
The first translations of his plays into any language was German.
I think I actually might have known that, and it also adds up to the argument we discovered a long time ago. Since we were performing the complete works of William Shakespeare Abridged all around the world, every country that we play it in claims Shakespeare as their playwright. Japan, Israel, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore. Yes, he's our country's playwright. America, which is great. And we're bouncing around in topics, but part of this conversation is also about the thing we were talking about is engagement. And we didn't use words like engagement or content when we started the podcast 20 years ago. And I was saying that every week I say, send me an email, send me your thoughts to feedback@reducedshakespeare.com. Nobody ever, that's not true. Very few people do, and not regularly and only occasionally. Which is also fine. But am I not doing enough to provoke a response? Or are people going, no, I'm good. I'll just listen. You do your thing. You do your podcast, and I'll listen. I don't need to weigh in. If that's the case, I applaud the restraint and applaud the lack of need to post or say something banal, which seems to be the flood of my personal Facebook page.
Yeah, I think it's two things. I think people don't necessarily comment, but I also think saying, go to our website to check out more information, that is so general. That is saying, send us a message. What we want to do is you want to build community. It's got to be more specific than just send us an email. And I don't have all the answers now. Someone reached out to us and said, "Hey, you asked us how I like to engage. This is how I like to engage with my listener," and we have yet to receive that email back on what she's going to say. But I do think that building community building, fan building is different than just saying, "Send us an email." We were looking at the website. We had this conversation yesterday when we started, and back in
2006.
Yeah, we had a website, but even RSC. I mean, back then, when I joined in '97, we had a web. When we first got that website, we had a whole chat page, and it was pretty vibrant for a while.
Yeah.
We've gotten away from that. There is no place online. Yes, you could argue Facebook and ways to connect, but there's no community. So I'm always curious, how do we
Where is that new community?
Yeah.
Where is it? I mean, it used to be on what formerly the actual, I'll never think of it as anything other than Twitter. There was a great community there, and I preferred it to Facebook because I guess it was self-selecting. You meet the friends on Facebook that you already know, and on Twitter and on other social mediums, you meet the people you want to know. Where the RSC community can gather online and communicate and BS and share fan stories, do whatever fans want to do. We're still in the process of discovery. If you have any suggestions, and I'm looking at you, not you, Matt Croke, but you, that's right, Bob and Weave, let us know in the comments, in an email.
Well, and let me connect the dots on why I think it's important, because what you can do when you build a community, when you do something, you can actually then pull from things that are being said, and you can use that as material, even if they're not specifically sending you a comment. I did some research about, Shakespeare and how to build. And one thing it said, go to the Reddit pages. Go to the Reddit pages. It's one of the largest Shakespeare discussion groups is in Reddit. And find out. So I just typed in Shakespeare discussion Reddit, and here's one I'm just going to read it because it said, "Shakespeare is outdated. Focusing on him makes kids uninterested in literature. Teach him in history class, but not in English." And it was a huge thread. And number one, I do want you to comment on that. But you can now tap into what discussions are happening in your community, which then is going to make them engage more. So it's way deeper than just send me an email. If you can find a place where they gather, you can pull from those and not only have new content, but talk to what they're talking about.
I mean, that is an interesting post, and I should look at the other responses. But my initial response is just one of like, I don't need to engage with that guy. He's an idiot, which is not the right tone to take, I'm sure. But that's often.
But doesn't every generation need to learn the lesson of Shakespeare's not outdated?
Yeah.
That conversation never should stop.
Well,
because he's not outdated.
And the current conversation that I have been having for almost 10 years now via my essays with the Folger Shakespeare Library is that we need to stop saying Shakespeare is for everyone, because increasingly that sounds more like a threat than a promise. Like if you don't like Shakespeare, then you're an idiot. But that's demonstrably untrue. Not everybody. Yeah. I don't like opera. I don't, as you and Reed know, I don't like baseball. Two very popular things. I don't care for them, but that's fine. One doesn't have to like everything. There are riches to be had in Shakespeare if you can get to them, and the trick to getting to them is, good teaching, fantastic productions, great essays like the ones I write. Pop-up books like Pop-Up Shakespeare by Jenny Maisels and me and Reed Martin. But also just amazing productions.
Discussion groups
groups, yes. And there are a bunch of discussion groups out there for sure.
And I don't want to make it seem like Reddit is this big thing, because the next one on Reddit said, this one says, "I know this is not at all groundbreaking, but holy crap, Shakespeare is so good. It bears repeating, an absolute master of the English language, and I think his writings have aged overall very well. I mean, look at Titus Andronicus and the anti-prejudice monologue that could have been written in the 1960s civil rights era."
Wow. Yeah, I'll have to reread that monologue myself, because the current monologue that is making the rounds is the one from Sir Thomas More that Ian McKellen just did on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Fantastic monologue, all about not only about the plight of immigrants, or as they called them, strangers, back then, 400 years ago, but also about the power of theater, because Sir Thomas More in this monologue is talking to the crowd saying, imagine if you were like these people. Imagine, put yourself in these people's place. Imagine if this were to happen to you. That is the power of theater and storytelling. And Shakespeare was embracing it 400 years then, and it's the power of theater and storytelling now. Something that AI will never be able to replicate: live performance.
Right.
As useful as it might be as a tool in what we're doing. Yeah.
And it should be a tool. And this is a behind the curtains episode, so I'm going to kind of just say what just happened. So what we did there is we had two very good discussion points, or you were able to explain, which I found very interesting, based off of two conversations that were happening right now at Reddit. And those are real conversations happening. So you're now more in tune. And all I did was went to ChatGPT and said, how do I engage more? It said, check out Reddit. It's one of the largest Shakespeare forums. I go to Reddit. So AI is not replacing anything. It's just guiding me to be more efficient in finding what matters to people more.
Well, and you've been good about this too, about you've been telling me it's very interesting when I hold forth. In my mind, I feel I don't like holding forth, because it's like I'm embarrassed, and my default mode is self-deprecation, making fun of myself and others. So tooting my own horn as to where is not a thing I like to do. God knows I have opinion, and maybe it's because I'm drinking Twice Lucky from Sketchbook Brewery, only 3.8 ABV.
The money's going to be rolling in from the sponsors. There we go, just rolling in.
But as you say, you are giving me discussion prompts, and
Right.
I do think getting more. If we had a feedback and questions from listeners and viewers, it would be fantastic to weigh in on this. Also, I should point out before we go too far is not only is Matt Croke my podcast whisperer, but he's quite fetching here on the poster.
There I am. I didn't even put that together. There I am.
Bible Complete Word of God
I am
Abridged.
Salome. That is my name. I am an angry lass. Boys love the way I dance all night. They always touch my tassels.
You look fetching, or like you should be fetching. It's hard to.
I should be fetching.
Hi, I'm Rachel Dratch, and you're listening to the Reduced Shakespeare Company podcast.
Where can you RSC the RSC? In the U.S., we'll be performing all the great books abridged this month in Sault Ste. Marie and Holland, Michigan, and Adam Long's newly reimagined production of the complete works of William Shakespeare abridged will be playing across the U.K. in Guildford, Lichfield, Southampton, Poole, Hertford, Bedford, Tunbridge Wells, Newbury, Taunton, Exeter, Northampton, Bolton, Watford, Oxford, Ipswich, Bury St. Edmunds, Keswick, Newcastle, Doncaster, Wakefield, and York. Check out the touring page at our website, reducedshakespeare.com, or our social media pages for venue and ticket information. And now, before we get back to my behind-the-curtains conversation with RSC Podcast Whisperer Matthew Croke, a small correction for those keeping track at home. We recorded this conversation using Riverside Studio software, not Riverside FM, available at riverside.com.
Well, I'm going to push back a little bit on the holding forth. I go more towards your storytelling and your connecting Shakespeare to that first point and to the second point. It's not outdated because you're connecting what happened with Shakespeare's words to now, and not many people can do that. There are plenty who can. I think for those who have not listened to the Ides of March Madness, my goodness, what a great set of episodes, because you have 5, including yourself, just people knocking it out of the park, just talking layers and layers about, it's like listening to a sports event. It was great. That's the sweet spot.
And that is the 5-panel episode we're trying to get up on YouTube.
That's the
If we can
5 panel,
figure
yeah.
out the best and easiest and fastest way to get it up there, it will be up there soon. That's episodes 1006 and 1007, which will probably get up on YouTube after this one, episode 1008, I'm guessing.
I think because you have so much material, either whether it's your videos, whether just all your material. Substack is a great move for going to Substack. I hear more and more about that. But repurposing older episodes into clips and shorter versions, you can get a lot of mileage out of that. Not everyone has 1,000 episodes. So when you talk about, saving time, you have a treasure trove of material of classic stuff that is still relevant today that you can be using. Not to mention the America Show DVD clips or whatever you want to do. So that's one. And then the other one is segments. People like segments, and I know we talked about this, but finding short little segments. So I'm going to introduce one today. Now it's called a blind ranking. We're going to do two separate segments. So the first one's called a blind ranking. And how this works is 1 through 7, you have to rank them in your most important, your most liked to least liked, but you don't know all the other answers or all the other things coming. So once you lock in number 3's gone. So you got to figure out, is there a better one coming? Is there a worse one coming?
And this is 7 items that I will rank 1 through 5. Is that
1 through 7? We're going to do
1
7.
through 7? Okay, got it.
1 through 7, right.
All right.
So the worst one's 7, so you're going to have to figure out. And I have another Shakespeare one, but for this one, I want to tap into your directing style because I think that's really interesting. So these are, let's keep it to directing Shakespeare.
Okay.
These are director modes or director things you would do, and you want to rank them in terms of effectiveness. Okay, number 1, site-specific non-theater venue. So perform where the play lives, a real forest, a castle, a warehouse.
3.
Really?
Yeah. Love me some site-specific Shakespeare. Doesn't always work, but it's a really you were there when we did Coriolanus with the Backroom Shakespeare Project at the Hideout.
I didn't even think of that. So real quick, that was a great experience. I was done in a bar, and it was done right on the floor, and everyone is right on top of everyone. And the crowd scenes were great because as an audience, it really felt that energy.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. I thought that was going to be lower. There you go. All right, so the second one I throw at you is play the tragedy as a comedy or vice versa.
Ooh. That's important. That's really, really, really important. I'm going to put it in the middle. I'm going to put it at 4 because you can't do every tragedy like it's a farce, but you have to look at tragic moments, serious moments, and find the comedy there. You also have to find the serious moments in the comedies.
Okay, very good. All right. 1 actor, multiple roles.
Solo versions of Shakespeare plays. I'm going to bump that down to like 6.
Okay, down to 6. All right, so you've got 1, 2, 5, and 7 left. All right, next one is original pronunciation throughout the entire performance.
I'll put that at. You know what? I'm going to put that at 7. I like it, but I'm going to put it at 7.
All right. Next one is aggressive text cuts. 90 minutes, no interval, just aggressive text cuts.
Look, this is me. I have to put that at number 1, don't I? I got to.
All right.
I have to. Reducing Shakespeare? I have to.
Yeah. All right. So you've got 2 and 5. So you're kind of. Let's see how it goes. So your last one is villain as the sympathetic hero. Is that a 2 or a 5? Because that's all you have.
Yeah, I would make that a 7, but it's a 5.
Okay. Oh, so that would have been your.
That would have been my lowest. Yeah.
Your last one.
Like my.
All right,
some of our protagonists and title characters are villains. Richard III is both the protagonist and the villain of his own story. But for instance, in Twelfth Night, I've climbed up on this horse before. Malvolio, the Puritan villain, is not a misunderstood hero. He's the bad guy.
All right. And so then your number 2, whether you like it or not, let me know how it fits, is bare stage minimalism.
I don't mind that. No, that's very reduced. I think that's terrific. So
All
1
right.
and 2 are cutting the text and bare stage minimalism. Perfect. That's great. That worked out great.
Yeah.
Do they all work
So the
out
biggest-
that well, that game?
We'll have to find out next time. And I did say we have 2 of them, but I'm actually going to wait now on the set. It's a teaser because that one went so well because it was a nice, healthy, again, we're pulling back the curtain. I wouldn't comment on everything we do, but this is a pull back the curtain episode. That was great because not only did you rank them, but you gave some insight also to directing, how the plays are, the characters, that I thought was very, very rich. So we will save another one, whether for you and a guest or yourself, we'll save it for the next one.
That's it for this week's Reduced Shakespeare Company podcast, except for one more thing, which I'll share with you in about 60 seconds, so stick around. So here's a little more behind the curtains info if you're interested. It turns out that Riverside was not only able to create the audio you've been listening to, but also the video some of you have been watching automatically. And I didn't have to use Descript at all. I edited the audio using GarageBand and ran the video through iMovie, where I added these pops and tails that I filmed separately before I uploaded it. I promise we'll be back to talking about theater and comedy and more Shakespeare next week. Send us your feelings about new games segments and anything else via email to feedback@reducedshakespeare.com, or throw a comment to us over on the socials where you can interact with other fans, or on our own actual website, reducedshakespeare.com, or visit my website, theshakespeareans.com. You can also find me over on Substack under my name or The Shakespeareans. Thanks as always to, Matthew Croke, web services by Ginger Power Limited, music by John Weber and GarageBand. Our random fan shout out this week goes to Jacqueline Jones. No reason, it is just random. Let me remind you that for a limited time, Arden Publishers are giving RSC fans a 35% discount off the hardcover edition of Ronan Hatful's book, Shakespeare in the Theater, Reduced Shakespeare Company. Go to bloomsbury.com and type in promo code RSC when you check out. Special thanks to Rachel Dratch, who started performances last week of the Rocky Horror Show on Broadway. And as always, thanks very much to you for listening. I'm Austin Titchener, 1008 3024ths of the Reduced Shakespeare Company. The format of the podcast has not changed much at all in almost 20 years. But could one of these games that you have just outlined, one of them, could that be a new regular segment in the podcast? Do you as a listener or as a viewer think it should?
Yeah, we just talked about building community and people don't reach out. And this one we are asking. For this one, even though you don't typically do reach out. Send Austin a comment. I'm sure it's he knows you can email him, because this one will help build those future episodes. So this one's important to reach out.
Feedback at reducedshakespeare.com.
This podcast is a production of the Reduced Shakespeare Company, reducing expectations since 1981. Go to reducedshakespeare.com for performance dates, actor bios, email newsletters, and so much less.